This episode of the 948 Division I show is brought to you by Ryan Jim of Henderson and Logan Edmondson, and we do appreciate that. They're located at 2101 Highway 64 in Henderson. You can give them a call, 903-987-5858. You can find them online at RyanJimHenderson.com. You can also find them on Facebook. Just type in Ryan Jim of Henderson. And we've talked before about how at Ryan Jim of Henderson, it's not just about working out. It's a family atmosphere. That they want to know your goals, and then they're going to help you try to get to those goals and strive for them. And when you achieve them, they're going to celebrate with you. Also, Logan knows it's not just about working out. As he says, nutrition is just as important as exercise when it comes to achieving your fitness goals. Proper nutrition is essential for achieving strength and muscle gains, and he backs that up because now at the gym, you can buy prepackaged meals. They're healthy, they're easy, and also it's really easy to pay. You don't have to have cash. You walk in, you get the meal you want, and you cash app for it. So check out Ryan Jim of Henderson, again located at 2101 Highway 64 in Henderson. 3 teams advance. We say goodbye to Athens, and we're here to talk about it. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the Ryan Jim of Henderson 948 Division I show right here on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media. As NETSN, Brett will be joining me, Brett Sweeney, as he does each and every week here on the show. And we're going to talk about the 4 games last week, talk about the 3 games this week, and our thoughts on that. Now, I do want to say this. This is an extra long show because me and Brett started talking Texas Rangers to begin things. So I will give you a skip right here. So if you want to skip that and just go to the 948, just skip simply to about 7:28 in the show. But hey, I don't get to talk baseball. Grant is a guy, he celebrates their wins and they watch them when they win, but he doesn't follow baseball religiously. Intern Noe never played baseball. He follows them kind of like Grant. He roots for them and all, but he doesn't follow them religiously. And me and my dad are tired of texting each other about it. So it was just nice to me and Brett, and it just kind of happened. So anyway, skip to that if you don't want to hear that. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Brett of NETSN joins me to talk 948 Division I and the 4A Division I Region 3 games in general. Is your demanding work lifestyle in need of fire-resistant clothing that can keep up? Well, L4FR clothing should be your go-to for quality, affordability, safety, and style. L4FR was founded by a third-generation oil field worker who is also a veteran. Thus, this company has a deep appreciation for reliability and longevity, all while we provide first-rate customer service. Our durable apparel will serve you well for many years to come, whether you're working on a pipeline, a lineman climbing utility poles, or in any other environment requiring fire-resistant apparel. L4FR has you covered. Our apparel is tough enough to resist hazardous conditions while still providing high comfort and style. L4FR provides clothing options to ensure your safety and comfort, whether you're on the job or not. To view our complete inventory of flame-resistant garments, please visit our online store at L4FRclothing.com or give us a call at 817-757-4935. Si habla español. Terry Bennett back here on the Raw Iron Gym of Henderson 948 Division I football show. It must have at least been a good week for one team because we're still talking here in the playoffs. It actually was a good week for 3 teams. Before we talk about the 3 teams that moved on, we tip our hats to the Athens Hornets, who had a pretty solid season this year, and they gave Lumberton a good first half, but that Raider offense kind of wore them down in that second half.
Yeah, I think Athens was kind of a surprise, at least for a lot of the guys we talk about every week. And thought Athens had a great season. They made the playoffs in a really tough district. And, I thought they may have had a chance to compete, and they did for a little bit. But Lumberton's tough. I mean, that's a tough one to get round one. I mean, they've got a game this week, and we'll talk about it here in a minute. But I think Lumberton probably advances and moves on to the next round, and they'll meet their toughest competition of the season.
Yeah, and in fact, you bring up a good point. Since there's 3 teams from 948 Division I in a region that we now have 4 games, we're just going to talk Region 3 the whole way. We'll pick every game as we do. I do want to say this, though.
You and I are actually recording audio, but we can see each other because we're using our restreams. And that's a very fine hat you have, sir.
Oh, yeah, it's a nice hat. What about my shirt?
Oh, I
my
like
shirt.
that. Look what just fell into the studio, though. Look at that.
Ooh, that's nice.
And that is going to stay up forever. I bought that to wear, and then I wanted to put it up for the sideline to sideline show so we could show it like I did last night. And then I started looking like, you know what? I kind of think I'm going to keep that right there and just get me another one, a different style. Anyway, we're talking about Texas Rangers stuff because that's what we do right now. I have every day I watch something on YouTube that's a repeat of the playoffs. In fact, I actually watched the full game, the Halloween game, because that's when we were recording on sideline to sideline, so I couldn't watch that. I think it was game 4, and so I went back and watched that full game. I'm still walking on clouds about that.
I took my kids trick or treating that night, and I didn't get to watch it. And the very last house we were at, I'd avoided spoilers. And the very last house I was at, the guy like had the game on through the window or something, and he yells out the score, and I'm like, dude, spoiler alert, man! I was gonna watch that, so I still went back and watched it. Don't get me wrong, but it was a relaxing watch because I already knew the score at that point. I didn't know the ending score, obviously, but I had a fairly good feeling we were going to win at that score. So, but every time, like, I can't get enough of watching those clips. Like,
neither.
My favorite clip these days is the Bregman. Where he says that they never thought they were going to win the West, and
we'll never know.
The Seager kind of mocks him there at the ceremony at the parade.
Yep,
I thought that was really, really cool that he did that. I just get chills thinking about it because all the years of watching the Rangers and the disappointments and the tough times and all that.
I'll tell you this. I couldn't. I didn't watch Game 5 at first because of that. I've always said 2011 broke me. Like, it really did. It broke me. It's hard. It was hard between 2011 and now. Outside of the 2020 Stars run, because that was so unexpected, and also there was nothing else to watch. It was during COVID. But it's been hard for me to watch Cowboy playoff games. It's been hard to me to watch UT play important games. And yes, they've played a few. It's just been hard because that Game 6 being one strike away twice, it literally broke me. And so I was like, okay, I will watch up to either they get eliminated. I'll watch up to whenever there's the first elimination game, and then I'm not going to watch. I'm just going to, I will go back. I can't do that to myself. And then I'm laying there, and this is, I thought at first, because I ended up staying up that night watching stuff, I thought I got sick from there, but I realized now I was already getting sick, and I'd kind of dozed off. And I woke up at about like 9 o'clock, and I just couldn't help myself. I looked at the score, saw that it was a no-hitter, but it was still 0-0. And I literally, my first at bat of that game was Corey Seager's pull ball single. And so I feel good that now it felt like I was the guy that, because I started watching instead of
you watched it and you got the first hit there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The way the game went, Terry, it was just like they were playing perfect, but yet Evaldi was able to get out of every jam.
Yep.
And every time I did that, I mean, it was stressful, but I was like, man, if he keeps getting out of these jams and if they don't take advantage of this, the Rangers are eventually going to hit the ball.
Yep.
And so I had a good feeling just because of the way the game was going. But man, that the one run was great, but then when they put it up and they had a 5-run lead, it just made that last inning just so much better.
Well,
it's easier.
Well, isn't it funny that of all we all thought the bullpen was going to be an issue, and we're going to talk 9-4A football, but y'all just have to deal with this. But all the times in the playoffs, even when they were winning, their bullpen in that 9th inning still tended to make it a little interesting. It was nice that when it finally came down to that one, it was the easiest. It was the easiest inning since probably game 2 of Baltimore. The bullpen came in and basically shut them down 1, 2, 3. It was nice that there was not even any stressful parts of that.
Yeah, I agree. Chapman and Leclerc, they stress me out.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's why you still got to get a closer. I love what Leclerc's done. I love that Leclerc actually, people forget he was the young closer going to be back on the 2016 team. I mean, he was on those last playoffs, and he's literally the only player that was left that's actually playing. But that's why you still got to go out and get a Josh Hader, and you put Leclerc back in the setup role, and I think you flourish. Anyway. Now we're going to talk 9-4. I haven't got to talk about. I love Grant, but Grant's not the big. I mean, he celebrated, but he's not the biggest baseball guy, so I don't get to really talk just pure baseball. So it's kind of. Now we might have to do a Rangers show next year, dude.
Sounds good.
We'll have to do like a week. You know what? That'd be kind of fun. Do a weekly Rangers. I'd love to do it nightly, but I think I'd also get kind of grinded down.
Yeah.
But to do like a weekly,
162 games worth of. That would be.
And when I was in college doing. Going to radio television at A&M Commerce, I worked at the Ticket in Dallas as an intern, and that was a lot of what I did was their Diamond Talk, which is their post-game show, mainly because I got to go out and watch the Rangers for free because they did the show live there. But anyway, all right, now let's talk 9-4A Division I. And outside of Athens, it was a good week. Lindell, dispatched a Viter 49-28. Kilgore dominated Livingston, and Livingston's very down this year, 49-8. And then Chapel Hill beating LCM, not a shock. Scoring 35, not a shock. But I was very happy that the Bulldog defense held them to 7 points. What were your overall thoughts of these three games?
I think they were to be expected. I think that I just had a good feeling about, from what I'd seen from Kilgore, Lindell, and Chapel Hill, that just the talent they have on the team. I don't think, and no offense to the teams down south, but there's just not the speed and the talent that these teams are playing against. And we'll talk about that here in a minute in a couple of these games. But I just think that what I saw from Chapel Hill, especially the defensive performance, was what I was impressed with. The offense, they still had some penalties, and they still kind of were. I don't guess it's just not the 50 to 60 point.
Yeah, not clean.
Right. But the defense stepped up, and maybe Corey's little I don't know if you got to see Corey's little rant on our show.
No, I didn't. What was he ranting about?
But basically he called out the Chapel Hill defense.
Ooh.
He was like, play like your mama lost 50 pounds and someone called her fat. Play like you got a new PS5 for Christmas and someone stole it. Play like your ex-girlfriend keyed your brand new car that you just got. Just basically, he said this how he said. He said, just play pissed off.
Yeah.
Like, come out and they did. They hit him in the mouth. I mean, some of the clips, Trevor Brooks and Dede Ross were all over the field. I mean, it was a pretty impressive performance. That's what I got most out of it. Because if the defense, we've talked about it all year, if their defense can play with the athletes they have and sure up some things, then they've got a chance to make a long run. And so I think it's gotten better. The main thing that they've got to be careful of, and it got them in Kilgore, is that over the top, letting those receivers get open over the top. So we'll see if they sure that up. The run game defense has been better. Even against Kilgore, they didn't let them get big runs, and the things that got them were the big plays over the top. So we'll see. And then the Kilgore game, not surprising.
Yeah, there's not much to say about that game.
Livingston came in at 2-8. They just kind of got in because they had to have a fourth team. Kilgore dispatched them pretty easy. Now, I will say that Lindell and Kilgore have some interesting matchups this week. A little more. We talked about it, I think, the last time we had a show, Terry, about the bracket and the way it fell.
Yep.
And it turns out that El Campo's not a bad team. They've had some injuries. You've talked about that before. But of the paths to get to the third round, Chapel has the easier game.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah. And I think that Chapel Hill's a prohibitive favorite over El Campo. If Oliver Miles is 100% healthy, it's a little different. But, that's a program that's not only going through a coaching change, but you're talking the extreme of a Chad Worrell offense and defense that on defense is running 10-1, very aggressive, and on offense grinds you down, he doesn't really play a slot T, wing T, but he uses a lot of those concepts and principles to a Travis Reed Cuero team that's going to spread the ball out. And they're going to throw the ball, and they're going to run it too, but it's just different. And El Campo's in the down cycle, and that's. And we talked about, like I said, we talked about last week that, hey, if Chapel Hill, gets past their first opponents, which we thought they would, it set up an easier path to the third round for them. And if you look at these games, and let's go ahead and break down this week's games. And Lindale, real quick, Lindale did exactly, we even talked about, we said, hey, if they struggle to stop the slot T, that could become an issue. If they're able to get Viter, off the field, eventually I thought Lindale would wore him down. That's kind of exactly how that game played out. But all right, let's now go to. I didn't want Let's Go Eagle to think we're shortening the Lindale talk. We're about to talk about them a lot right here.
They were impressive. I think he may like me this week, Terry. I'm just going to say it right now because I think there's all the talk about Iowa Colony. I think they're a really good team. They've got a lot of athletes, speed, but they're young. This Lindale team has got some senior leadership. That their line play is excellent.
Yep.
I don't think that Lindale. This is not the toughest team Lindale's faced. I think, in my opinion, Chapel Hill and Kilgore are both better teams than Iowa Colony. Because who they're playing. I do, and I think Lindale.
I think Kilgore is. I don't know about Chapel Hill. I think y'all are on the same level as Iowa Colony.
I mean, as far as what I've seen some film of Iowa Colony a little bit, and they're good, but have they played anybody?
No, that's a valid comment.
And they haven't. I think they're a really good team, but they're young. They don't have the senior leadership there. It's a new school.
Yeah.
I think next year is their year. I think next year they're going to bring everybody back, and it's going to be a really good year. Now, where they'll end up as far as we probably 5A, right?
Yeah, they're going to be 5A Division 2. All right, look, we'll start there. That's the bottom of the bracket. Here, let me do this real quick. Here's the games this week. Kilgore 10-1 versus Bay City 8-3 at Sheldon ISD Panther Stadium in Houston, 7 p.m. Lumberton 8-3 versus Needville 9-2, 7 p.m. Thursday at Katie's Legacy Stadium. El Campo 6-5 versus Chapel Hill 9-2 Friday 7 p.m. at Springs Planet Ford Stadium. And then Iowa Colony 11-0 versus Lindale 7-4 Friday at Brian Green's Rudder Stadium. It's where Rudder plays. Well, they both play there, but I always call it Rudder Stadium. All right, so we'll start at the bottom and work our way up. All right, Here is why Iowa Colony is, to me, still a maybe the region favorite, or at least close to it. And I totally agree that Lindale can beat them. At this point, this is one of those 50-50 games. But you're right about the senior leadership. They don't have that. They don't have the senior maturity, which is an issue when you're playing a senior-laden team. I agree with that, too. What Iowa Colony has, and we've seen this bear out in other divisions, is they have 5A Division II numbers right now. So that means they have depth. If you're just assuming the average same amount of people that is playing, as a 4A Division II school, now extrapolate that out to one more division. If that same percentage, they have depth, and I've seen it. And they're able to do things like on first and third possessions, they have 4 different defensive linemen, and on second and 5, they sometimes have completely different ones. That is so huge at this point of the game. I think that their athleticism is very underrated. Their quarterback is really, really, really good. I agree about the schedule, but I will point out that, and we could say, well, that's because of who they played in the first round. But, out of 12-4A, every team is still alive. And yeah, it is because they play the Houston schools, but you go and look inside these games outside of. All right, so Iowa Colony finished 11-0. Bay City finished 8-3. 2 of their losses were in district. Needville finished 9-2. 2 of their losses were in district. That's a pretty standard to me that tells you that these teams were coming in unbeaten or almost unbeaten, and they all played pretty solid schedules. Now, again, I don't think any of them have played a Kilgore, a Lindale, or a Chapel Hill. I totally agree with you and that can be a big factor. I just keep going back to that depth. That depth, I think, is so important.
Well, Lindale's a pretty big school for Division I. They're on the top
and they're
end,
and that was going to be my other thing. They're on the top end. They might actually end up in 5A. So that's the other thing I think Lindale has as a benefit. But here's the thing. If Lindale goes 5A Division II, they will immediately become one of the smallest 5A Division II schools.
Right.
Iowa Colony, the way they're projecting, if they go in at 5A Division II, they're right firmly in the middle. So there's still that advantage, and it's and it can, and a lot of that time, that kind of advantage, it might not even play out because it depends on how the game goes. If this becomes a game where Lindale gets up early and all that, then depth won't matter. But depth does matter to me is if you're going into the third and fourth quarter and you're getting into that point where both teams have had 80 snaps and Lindale on defense or on offensive line have all had all 80 snaps, and then you go look over at Iowa Colony and they've got 8 guys who've all split those 80 that can be a big thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it definitely is. I agree with you on that. I just think that I have faith in Coach Cochran.
Yep.
I think he's a great coach.
Yep.
He's come up with some good schemes. I mean, I had no chance. I had no idea that Lindale was going to beat Chapel Hill this year. After what Chapel Hill did last year, I was just so impressed. They came out, they had a game plan, they stuck to it, and his team believed in the game plan.
Yep.
And were disciplined and executed. So I know they'll have one for this week. Not to say that Iowa Colony won't. I just think that Lindale's gonna. The last time that they played in Bryan, I had this defect from a man KO. It's actually the year they won state, or they went to state in 2020.
Oh yeah, with Jennings at running back.
They've got good rapport here in this stadium too. So not that matters, but it's good. It's good to as far as the coaches go, they feel good going into this stadium.
Well, and this is a 50-50 game. I think this is outside. I think this one in Lumberton and Needville are your 2 really, really close games that could go either way. I think the other ones, I can see a path where Bay City gives Kilgore problems. But at the end of the day, I mean, they have a really good quarterback in Estrada. They have a lot of athleticism. Kilgore's bigger. Bay City's not small. Again, sometimes when we say that, we're not small. I didn't say you're small. Kilgore's just bigger. So I still think Kilgore at the end of the day is a prohibitive favorite because if it's a shootout, I think Kilgore wins. If it's an defensive shutout, I think. And that's how I always judge who I'm going to pick. If a game goes a certain way, who takes the advantage, and Kilgore takes the advantage on both of those. But yeah, Lindale, Iowa Colony, I think this is a 35-28 game, or it could be a 21-17 game. But either way, I think it's within one possession. I said on the show last night, Iowa Colony, and one thing bad about when you record on Tuesday, those things, man, I can change my mind 1,000 times between then and when the actual game starts. I'm still going to go Iowa Colony, but I think it's just a really, really fun game this year.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's going to be a good one. I'm going with Lindale just because I think that they've been battle tested this year. And I feel like as the year has gone on, they've gotten better. And Coach Cochran's got them playing well at the end of the season. Really, the only loss I think that was a really bad one, not that it was bad, but the Kilgore loss, they kind of got spanked pretty good. Well, that was Kilgore. Yeah. I mean, other than that, as the season's gone, they've gotten better.
Well, you can. Again, this is why we love to do these shows. If they gotten better or who they've played gotten worse. I mean, they give up 42 to Pine Tree. They give up 42 to Van. They give up 59 to Gilmer. They give up 64 to Kilgore. Now, they did hold Chapel Hill to 23, but they also ran their quarterback 245 times, and Chapel Hill did some Chapel Hill things. So I could make the case that any time they've played a good offense, they've gotten ravaged. So you can say, and we can also point out, well, even Palestine scored 49 points. And so I do think that there's a valid concern there that this defense hasn't gotten necessarily better. It's the opponents have gotten a little bit worse on that. In saying that, though, I still think no matter what, this is a one-possession game.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a good argument. I think that Lindale itself has gotten better. Maybe not just the defense. I think the defense has improved, but I think overall the team itself coming into the season, they lost a lot on the line. They had
you basically only had Casey Poe.
Yeah, that was it. And so they've had a lot of guys fill in, and I was impressed with what I saw. Again, and I'm judging them against Chapel Hill because that's a lot of what I've seen.
Yeah.
That's a good judgment. I mean, you go out there and you do what you did against a really good team like that. I think you can compete with Iowa Colony. I think it's going to come down to if Lindale can execute the game plan that Coach Cochran has, and whether that's the same as what they did against Chapel Hill, and Thurman, they can keep Thurman protected because, like you said, he's had a lot of carries. I don't know how many carries Thurman's had this year, but he's kind of hid behind his big boys up front. If he can continue to do that and they can pick up 3, 4, 5 yards a carry, I think they've got a really good chance to win this game.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I'm still going Iowa calling, but it's 50-50. All right, we both feel that Chapel Hill is going to beat El Campo. And I think this game, I think Coach Reeve, and if Oliver Miles is playing, I think El Campo can keep it early, or keep it close early. But as long as Chapel Hill's not turning the ball over, I just don't see El Campo stopping them consistently.
Yeah, it's a little Reeve Bowl, Terry. Blake Reeve is one of the coaches on the Chapel Hill staff.
I read that. That's right.
Son versus dad game. So they'll have some insight on each other. I guess it'd probably advantage to a son because, head coach, he'll know a lot of father's tendencies, of course, because son's not calling the plays on the other side. That would be, Coach Rio. But I think it's going to be really interesting. It's always a cool thing to have a father-son dynamic in the game.
Yep.
So it'll be a cool pre-game, post-game, I guess. Somebody will have to celebrate, somebody won't. But either way, I think it's going to be a game that Chapel Hill, maybe first quarter, they kind of feel each other out, but then they take over and they win. I would say for at least 2 or 3 touchdowns, if not more than that. I just think El Campo's, like you said, they've got a lot of rebuilding to do, a lot of change. When you come in and change that to style like that, and especially when it goes from a run the ball, grind you out team until go into the spread, that's a totally different.
Well, yeah, and for El Campo, the coach before them was a run and grind team. In fact, that was why the Worrell hiring was always kind of like, okay, because I thought y'all were legitimately going, hey, we want to change things up, and they did only in formations, and they still did the same thing. So this is literally the first time that this El Campo team is truly like, hey, we're throwing the ball. And I just think that they're just down talent-wise, too. And El Campo's one of those towns, and I love doing a show there with Coach Worrell, and we have a couple of listeners that listen to everything we do and absolutely love them, but they'll agree with this, too. El Campo's one of those towns that they think their football program is better historically than it actually has been. Because they've made some state runs, and on the last one when they got beat, I think it was Kilgore that beat them, 2012 or whatever. But in between that, they tend to get beat in the second round. I mean, consistently, like they've only made the quarters like 8 times, and the last one was 2012. So again, it's one of those things that sometimes some of these towns think they're just a little bit better historically than they really are. But now I want to move to a game that I think is going to be fun, and that's Lumberton 8-3 versus Needville 9-2. Thursday, again, Katy Legacy Stadium. You're getting 2 offenses that can score, but they do it in different ways. With Lumberton, it's all about Lucas Powell, one of the most exciting quarterbacks. With Needville, it's all about their run game. Keelan Sweeney's a really good quarterback for them. I don't want to bury that, but at the end of the day, Deshaun Burton, who is setting records all over the place in 4A Division I this year, this is going to be an exciting game.
Yeah, so I got to see Lumberton last year. They actually had Chapel Hill on the ropes in the first half, but then Chapel Hill was able to come back. But yes, you're right. Their quarterback was impressive. Powell, he led the charge last year. He'll have a year under his belt. I like Lumberton in this game, Terry. I'm taking Lumberton, and it may be I feel like a sad day for District 12. I feel like that they all may be out after round 2 after a good first round.
Yeah, and again, part of their first round is because they play the Houston ISD schools. But yeah, at the end of the day, Lumberton just, I think, plays defense a little bit better. Needville on the year, even in their wins, they gave up 35 to Stafford in a win, 42 to Navasota in a win, 50 to Bay City in a loss, 49 to Iowa Colony in a loss, but they scored 45. Back in 2019, them and Lampasas played a 66-44 game, and Grant was there, and Grant was just so frustrated with that game because he likes scoring, but he's old school. He likes to see them earn it, and Needville's kind of like that. Sometimes it feels like their defense is just there to give their running game a quick breather, and they'll get back on the field. So And Lumberton just plays better defense.
Yeah, I was concerned early when they lost to Nacogdoches. Nacogdoches had a weird season.
Yeah, they really did. Started hot and then faded.
But Lumberton's picked it up as of late. They've made a little run here. Not just think it's going to continue here. And it's going to set up an interesting matchup. And we talk about this other game in Kilgore Bay City. I mean, this bracket, you've got Lumberton, which they've been ranked off and on throughout. I think they started ranked.
Yeah, they did.
Bay City and Kilgore are currently ranked. You've got Iowa Colony ranked. You have Chapel Hill that was ranked at one point. I think Lindale snuck up there at some point.
Until the Kilgore,
crazy, a crazy bracket. I mean, it's sneaky good to me. You know that your Region 2 is going to get a lot of with the Stephenvilles and the Annas and all those guys up there, but this Region 3 is tough. I really think it's just there's about 2 or 3 teams in this bracket that I think could win it.
Well, yeah, and we kind of said it earlier. Like if I were to rank the teams left, I would have Kilgore 1, Iowa Colony 2, Bay City and Chapel Hill at 3, and Lindale probably 2. And I know that's you got 3 teams. But that's just because the difference after that, the drop off is a little bit considerable. Is why, but. Bay City, just by the luck of the draw, gets the best team in the second round. Because if you want to, people need to go look. Here's Bay City's losses on the year: Edna by 7, Navasota. That's the odd one but Navasota was kind of like Nacogdoches. They would lose some games they shouldn't, and then they beat a couple teams they shouldn't. But that was 30-26, and then they lost to Iowa Colony 28-27. So 2 of those 3 losses are very, very good losses. This team, when we talk about Alec Estrada, the quarterback, they've got a really big offensive line, but it's uneven. Like it's really big at a couple positions and it's kind of small at the other one. But they have a really good wide receiver in Zylan Williams, really good linebacker core with Isaiah Gonzalez and James Copeland. And James Copeland's going to have like 120 tackles this year, and he's a sophomore. But even as good as those linebackers are, we know what Kilgore likes to do. And they've got the added part this year that, to me, they're more explosive over the top, kind of like those Kilgore teams that were going to state and stuff.
Yeah, they can. Williams can throw the ball. I mean, he was impressive. Dual threat. He can run, throw. I don't know if you saw it, Terry, but I don't know if Kilgore needed any more bulletin board material. But did you hear the Bay City coach's comment?
No. Did he talk some trash?
He talked some trash about the District of Doom. Yeah, he was basically saying that their district was the District of Doom, and that I was like, oh my goodness, why would you say that? But I'm sure it's probably going to make its way to the Kilgore locker room for sure. And yeah,
well, I don't think he's wrong. I mean, again, the District of Doom isn't about how good the teams are outside the district for me. And that's why I've always, like, when y'all got named the District of Doom, I was like, it's not. You know who the 3 of the 4 playoff teams are in the last, their district legitimately went into the last week of the season where teams could either be district champs or finish in 6th. So I think there's a validity to what he's saying, but you're right, though. When people hear District of Doom, they think, oh, that means because that district, all the teams can go win state. And with 9-4A Division I, I think you can make the case that I think Kilgore and Chapel Hill could definitely win state. I think Lindale, it would still be kind of a magical run, but I think that they could make the region. They could end up out of the region if nothing else, if things break right for them.
Yeah, I just thought it was a weird time. And I'm going to send you the clip and you can watch it later. But I don't know. I mean, it comes off, I think it was an interview after the game. And yeah, their teams all won, but look who their opponent was.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, the Houston schools.
I think that's more of what it is versus, then I think they had a fine district, but I think that District of Doom may be the District of Doomed after this round. I think that they may lose all 4 teams.
Now, I have them winning one, but I have this Bay City Kilgore game being a 1-possession game. This is going again. This is why this is a fun region this week. There's a lot of really good games. I do think that again, benefit of just sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Chapel Hill finishes 3rd and they get the easier path. But every other team or every other game, I think in this region is going to be 1 possession.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is going to be really good. It'll be interesting to see. Chapel Hill is like, okay, so if you win this one, do you want to see Lindale again and play a close game up close in the East Texas area? Or do you want to not see Lindale again and play a really good Iowa Colony team and have to travel?
And also depends on if Iowa Colony wins, do they win, 28-27, or do they win 42-7? And I think there might be some confidence issues with Chapel Hill at times. And I think that would be one of those that I think you've got to go, okay, guys, don't look at the score. We played Lindale 5 weeks ago now. We're a different team now.
Mm-hmm. I think so. And then you look at the other top, you got Kilgore. The Kilgore Lumberton game could be a good one. I think the Bay City game is going to be tough, but to come off of that one and then have to face Lumberton, I don't know.
No, I agree. Lumberton, Lucas Powell, and that quarterback, and the head coach, he's in East Tech. Well, he moved all around because his dad was a coach, but he ended up graduating in Marshall a couple years after I did. He knows what he'd be up against with East Texas athleticism. We talked to him during coaches school about that, and he even admitted like that whole district understands that the way the region has been the last few years, that they tend to get bit in the second district, sometimes the second round, sometimes the third, depending on the draw. But they tend to get bit because, as you said, they struggle. They're Southeast Texas, but it's just a little different. They're not Silsbee, Southeast Texas.
No. Silsbee's, they're not bad.
No, they're not bad.
Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe.
As always, if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, to me, to Brett, you can put them on Smokey like most of y'all do, or you can email them to me, Terry at S2SSport.com. If you do put it on Smokey, tag me just so I can see it, because I'm going through, especially I'm recording this Wednesday afternoon, and I have so many shows tomorrow to do. I don't get to really stay on Smokey again until probably Friday. I'll get back on consistently. So if you do have a question, just tag me in this show thread, because I put up the one thread each week to put all of our shows in, and I'll answer it as soon as I can. But yeah, this is gonna be a fun week, and it should be. It's second round of the playoffs. Now, you should get to where you're starting to have some competitive games, and I think in this region especially, you're gonna have some of the most competitive games for a full size region across the state in all of 4A, and maybe all of 3A and 4A that we cover. All right. If you're going to the games this weekend, please be safe. Hope your team wins. Let's meet back together next week and talk about it right here on the Raw and Gym of Henderson 9-4A Division I football show on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media.